If you find yourself consistently dating or in relationship with emotionally unavailable partners, this video is for you. I want to say that we're going deep today. Today may be difficult to hear because as someone who also used to date only emotionally unavailable partners, I was focused more on them being the problem, them needing to change, and I was focused on how do I get them to understand me so that they will change and be who I want and need them to be. And so this video is about really highlighting the things that are going on within us that are prompting us to seek these types of partners in the first place. This isn't about trying to change them or get them to understand you or where you're coming from. This is about answering the question, why do I keep choosing someone who is unavailable to me in the ways that I need them to be? And this was a question that I never asked myself until I finally began my healing journey. So I hope that the topics that we discuss in this video shine a light for you and have a light bulb moment. So let's dive into number one. Why are you drawn to emotionally unavailable partners? And I have notes so I don't forget anything. But number one is you were raised by an emotionally unavailable parent. So you learn that love is unavailable. And so we choose partners who treat us in ways that feel familiar, that feel like this parent-child dynamic. And a lot of my clients say, I've heard over the years, that my mom or my dad was there every night. Um, they were there, they made me dinner, they took me to soccer practice, whatever it was. But there's a difference between physical presence and emotional availability. And if you have a parent, for example, who leans a little more codependent and they are trying to navigate their relationship with your other parent, and the codependent parent is distracted by their relationship with the other parent and doesn't really attune to your emotional needs because the parent is trying to get their own emotional needs met. This is just one way in which that parent is showing up for you in an emotionally unavailable way. And this teaches you then that this is what love, quote unquote, and a closeness and a connection feels like, because that's all you knew. That's all you had the option to receive was this type of dynamic where a parent was being emotionally unavailable. So you learned your DNA, your nervous system was coded to feel like, okay, connection and closeness and relationships are supposed to feel like unavailability, like absence. So that's why when a partner shows up and they're emotionally unavailable, it doesn't immediately turn you off. It doesn't immediately alert any red flag because this feels like what you're used to. So the brain is drawn to what feels familiar. So you are just going to lean all in there and not question or see this as a problem. Let's go to number two on this list of why you're drawn to emotionally unavailable partners. Number two, you learned a long time ago to accept and tolerate emotional unavailability as a typical part of a relationship. And when I say tolerate, I really want to dive in there because we develop a tolerance for emotional unavailability. We don't see it as a reason to walk away because we have been conditioned to tolerate a degree of emotional absence. So we're not having red flags and alarm bells go off in our brains. We just think this is what we are supposed to feel and accept in a relationship. And we tolerate the breadcrumbs. We tolerate our needs going unmet. We tolerate the person not having space or attunement for us or making us feel seen or heard or known, right? We have developed such a high tolerance for our needs, specifically our emotional needs, going unmet that when these partners come into our sphere and our orbit, we don't immediately uh, walk away and feel turned off. We're drawn to this person because Our brain is subconsciously saying, this feels familiar. I know how to show up here, right? I know since I was a little kid, I know how to show up in a relationship where the person is emotionally unavailable. This feels just like home, and let me lean in here. You're drawn to them like a magnet because your brain is feeling familiar dynamics at play. So that's really what's going on. Let's talk about number three. Your parents were not readily available to meet your needs. And so you learned that you had to work really hard to get your needs met. And so the same goes for your romantic relationships. When someone is emotionally unavailable and not meeting your needs, you don't see this as a red flag. Your parents weren't able to either. So, what did you do as a child when your parent was unable to meet your needs? You had to try to figure out, how do I get my parent to meet my needs? Because I don't have another option. I'm just a child. I can't leave and walk away and get my needs met elsewhere. I have to stay here in this parent-child dynamic and try to get my needs met. And so we learn how to show up, how to people please, how to acquiesce, how to be the chameleon and the people pleaser and whoever my parent needs me to be to get my needs met. We stay and we try to get our needs met the best we can, and we do the same in our adult relationships. So if you find yourself drawn to and attracting, or you are attracted to emotionally unavailable partners who don't meet your needs, it's again because this feels very familiar and you are very used to showing up in a dynamic where your needs are going unmet. Number four is a term called repetitive compulsion. This is just a psychology term that means the brain is drawn to the familiar, right? And as adults, we want to be able to recreate that old parent-child dynamic and finally get it right. Finally have a better, more fulfilling outcome. So we recreate dynamics with people who feel like our childhood in hopes that we can have a better outcome, in hopes that we can finally get this new person to be everything that our parent could not, so that we can kind of close the loop on this painful wound that's been open for so long. So our brains are just naturally drawn to and attracted to um, these types of partners. And number five, this one you probably aren't going to want to hear. And I ask you to receive it with openness and curiosity. And number five is that you, to some degree, are also emotionally unavailable. Yeah, I know. When I realized this about myself at the beginning of my healing journey, I was like, no way. I'm emotional. I am the one who wants the relationship and the connection. But what I didn't realize was that I was showing up in the relationship also not willing to be vulnerable with my emotions. I didn't share how I felt. I didn't share if something bothered me. I didn't share what my true preferences were or what my needs were because I was too afraid that being vulnerable and being emotional and sharing my emotions was going to scare the person away. So I also showed up in the relationship to a degree emotionally unavailable. And the fear of them leaving because of my emotions outweighed my ability to be fully authentic and vulnerable. So, these are just five reasons why you may find yourself in relationships with emotionally unavailable partners. It's because they feel familiar. It's because we are drawn to what we know, even when what we know is unhealthy and not actually what we want. So, where do we begin to heal this pattern of attracting or being drawn to emotionally unavailable partners? And for me, I had to realize that number one, who they were wasn't actually what I wanted as a conscious aware adult, right? My inner child and my wounded self wanted this person because they felt familiar and I was trying to correct and have a new outcome with somebody who reminded me of that parent, right? But when I logically recognized, I don't even like how they're showing up. They don't even hold space for me. They don't even care about how I feel. When I was able to recognize in the moment when the person was being emotionally unavailable, that at least helped me realize that if I took a step forward and continued to tolerate this, it was a choice I was actively making. Because before it was just a habit. It was just, I was automatically drawn to them. It was habitual. It wasn't anything I was consciously thinking about. But now that I was aware, and now that you are aware, you can consciously begin to choose. Do I want to take one more step towards this person that I know can't be what I need? Or do I want to pivot and choose to seek my needs elsewhere? The second thing that we must do is the way you relate to yourself is going to be a mirror for who you draw in, who you allow in, who you attract. So if you're walking around not prioritizing how you feel, because you're afraid of scaring them away, right? So you minimize and ignore your emotions and you don't really consider or care about your emotions. You're going to attract people who don't consider your emotions, who don't prioritize your emotions, who don't show any interest or concern for your emotions. It's just the way these dynamics work. It's just the way the universe works. If you don't care about and prioritize your emotions and speak up for your emotions, you're going to attract in partners who treat you the way that you treat you. So the best thing that you can do to start changing this pattern and start attracting partners who actually care about and consider what you feel and what matters to you is to be the one who also cares about what you feel and what matters to you. And instead of hiding your feelings, you speak up. You say how you really feel. You honor this part of yourself. And when you do that, what's going to happen? You're going to see, how does this person respond to me? How does this person react when I express what I really feel? And when I have a need or I have an opinion or I have a preference, do they invalidate me? Do they reject me? Do they make me feel like I'm being too emotional and needy? Or are they able to hear me and validate me and hold space for me and show that they care about how I feel? That act is what is going to help you weed out who's emotionally unavailable so that you can move yourself towards a more emotionally available partner. So, if you want more on this, if you want to dive deeper into this healing work and really break this pattern of dating emotionally unavailable partners and reset the relationship you have with yourself, I invite you to join me inside the Secure Collective, where we meet once a month, where I provide real-time coaching and get to actually meet you and sit down with you and answer your questions. And as always, when someone else's energy shifts, your security doesn't have to. That is the work of the Secure Collective. Until next time.